guys, welcome back to NowThis. Guys is a simple term. It could mean boys, or if you're modern, hip, it means people. At first glance, guys seems inviting, friendly, maybe warm, even comedic at times. But it, like many male default terms, should not be normalized as an all-encompassing phrase, innocent as it may seem. While we may understand the word means no real harm, with a deeper look, you'll understand that we've been ignoring the cognitive impact on women as well as gender non-conforming folks by only explicitly addressing the male.
I am a fan of Doc McStuffins. With this episode, they see a family that looks like our family.
All right, folks, thanks for staying in tonight. I hope you guys are isolating and securing in place. Wow, this COVID-19, I tell you. I don't know, I didn't see COVID 1 through 18, so I don't really know what this is all about. But hey, great time to catch up on your streaming stuff. Oh, hey, how you doing there? How you doing today? All right. Let's, folks, make sure to tip your food delivery people, but don't touch them. Don't touch them, and, and we'll be, I'll be here for another 40 minutes. If anyone has a first date or a wedding anniversary or something, I was in King of Queens.
Now is the time to have conversations that move us away from division and towards solutions.
It makes us wonder, how did we get here? What should we do now? And what can we do better in the future?
$68.5 million people worldwide are displaced right now. And me, I'm one of them.
You seem to conveniently forget that the developed world moved to the developing world without asking permission.
You'd make a big mistake if you think I hadn't heard of colonialism.
We've gotten too used to us versus them, but we all have a stake in our future.
The work will be done. We do not want to wait anymore. We are tired of the struggle.
We must address each of these crises with the belief that organized people can and do defeat organized power. That means we vote, we march, we think, we boycott, we teach, we write, we sing, we debate.
am trying to give a pretty clear signal. I have made up my mind. I'm not
I
trying
wasn't
to
in any
pretend
doubt
to be
at this
a
point.
fair juror here.
Everything I do during this, I'm coordinating with White House counsel. There will be no difference between the president's position and our position.
You know, when you're a trans woman and you've got your Republican neighbors planning your yard sign because they're like, Danica, I don't care about your personal life, just fix my damn commute. Like, that resonates with a lot of people.
Throughout her campaign, Danica had reiterated the crucial points of her story to her dedicated team of volunteers. She was a 33-year-old stepmom, she had lived in her district of Manassas nearly her entire life, and she had worked as a journalist covering local public policy issues.
What I love about this, Danica, is that you are proving that government can work for people by responding to what they saw as their biggest problem.
I love the idea of Thanksgiving. I love the idea of a day of gratitude and spending time with your family, and I actually love the weird food. What I don't like is the underlying tragedy and genocide that we ignore on that day. Why do we put our children in costumes of people that showed up and robbed graves and did terrible things and brought disease and just took things, took land from people who were already here? To set up children from the age of preschool to believe that it's right and okay to just take everything is actually truly horrible. It's teaching appropriation from the very beginning. So no wonder, when they get to high school, they think it's fine to wear these headdresses, to wear, things they should not be wearing, and to have these sports names. We start them at the age of 2 with these innocent, sweet Thanksgiving songs, but we create the appropriators of tomorrow. I thought I knew a lot as an Indigenous person about Thanksgiving, and the reality is, like, nothing we've been told is true in just one fact. Like, certain things did happen, but all of these things didn't happen in the way we've ever been told. It's like all the best, fake news, right? They took things that happened, certainly lots of separatists, which we now call pilgrims, and different Native folks have had meals. But, there's so many different times that possibly happened that we're referencing. There were so many political reasons that Thanksgiving, the mythology of Thanksgiving, kept morphing over the centuries to fulfill political agendas, right? Just like today. I think the hardest thing for Americans today, and the reason that Native Americans and Native American history and issues get left out so often, is because it hasn't ended. We can point to different things and say we fixed that. We are all still complicit in standing on stolen land. It isn't done. We've actually been told, like my people, for instance, have been told by the Supreme Court, yes, you're right. The government did violate their treaties, and this still is your land, yet they just won't give it back. The first step is just to know whose land you're on. You need to know which lands, whose nation you're standing on. Figure out who the Indigenous people are in your land, and then start to get to know about them. Start to figure out how you can make reparations. People get really scared when you talk about reparations, but I think there's so many ways that you, with your current resources, can reach out and say, what can I do to be of service? How can I help? Is there anything I have within my means that would be helpful to your people? And maybe it's just education, maybe it's getting your kids' teachers to stop doing these terrible, racist, horrible Thanksgiving pageants they do. I don't know what it is, but everybody has a capacity to give back something. And you need to start with knowing who you need to give it back to. And if everyone just did that on Thanksgiving, we would be eons ahead in this country than we've ever been in the history since, Columbus showed up.
White people will be fine. We'll always be fine. A lot of the people protesting at these blatantly white supremacist events say that they are protecting white culture, that they're not against any race, they're just pro-white. And I'm telling you, as a damn white person, that being pro-white is abjectly absurd. Here's why. You will not replace us! White culture is so ingrained in society, it doesn't need to be protected. No one's coming for white culture, and white culture is not at risk. White culture is gonna be fine. King of Queens is syndicated on like 8 channels.
Up in here! Up in here!
White supremacists have a slogan. We must secure the existence of our people and the future for white children. White people's existence doesn't need to be secured. It's fine. White children are gonna be fine. White children don't have to worry about being unfairly profiled and shot by police. White children don't have to worry about being banned from the greatest melting pot nation on earth. White children don't have to worry about being called terrorists. And the Trump administration supports these people. I won't even go into the bat speech where he compared Robert E. Lee to George Washington and said many sides are to blame for the violence instead of just blaming the Nazis. The New York Times reports Attorney General Jeff Sessions is dedicating resources for civil rights to protecting white people from being discriminated in college admission. An attack on affirmative action as it was held up by the Supreme Court when Abigail Fisher's grades weren't good enough to get into college and she blamed it on people of color. President Trump gave an earlier speech where the ideals were a little more subtle.
But today we're in the West, and we have to say there are dire threats to our security and to our way of life. And I declare today for the world to hear that the West will never, ever be broken. Our values will prevail. Our people will thrive. And our civilization will triumph.
Now just think, what do people from the West look like? What is our civilization? The white supremacist response to that is, what's wrong with being proud of my race and wanting to protect it? There's nothing to protect it from. It's just about exerting your dominance and preventing a more equitable world. White supremacists are just unremarkable people who want to cling on to the only thing they have.
When they roll the eyes back and they poke the tongue out, you can show your empathy, but then you can also definitely show your frustration. You can show your anger towards this violent, cruel act of terrorism through haka, venting their frustration, venting their anger towards the act, but also in the same vein, sending their sympathy and their emotion towards the people who passed away. Haka is one facet of Māori performing arts that we have practiced since the dawn of time. It's been misconstrued to be just a war dance, has deep and intrinsic meaning and emphasis on what you say. If you split the word up, haka, ha means breath and ka means to light up or to ignite. Traditionally, it wasn't really used as we see it today. Today we see haka in some contexts as a way of dealing with grief, as a way of mourning people passing away. So when you see all of this coverage in the last few days of people doing haka, it's a contemporary look at haka when traditionally haka were performed pre-battle. But because haka is so poignant, it's so on point, it's so in your face, people have been using haka over the past few days and in the last 30 years. So in my lifetime, we would see haka being performed to mourn people passing away. Before I was born, in the times of my grandparents and my great-grandparents, you wouldn't see that. It resonates with a whole lot of the youth today. They use it to mourn people passing away. People want to pay tribute. People want to show sorrow. Haka is the vessel to do that. When you see the quivering of the hands, when you see the eyes light up, when you see the facial expression, when you see all of that, it all adds to the performance within that particular haka. Even the immigrants feel like it's their duty to uphold the knowledge systems of the Māori people here. They feel that it's their responsibility to come and learn. When they come to Aotearoa, they want to learn about who we are, and it adds to their own identity. So when our Muslim brothers and sisters fell, we fell. We felt that it wasn't like it was them, that was us as Aotearoa, that was us as New Zealand. Feeling here in Christchurch is this isn't going to stop us. This isn't going to stop us as a nation, as a people, one people moving together. And it's just a time for us to remember the names of those who have passed away, and a time to reflect on how we can be better as a society.
Que no nos maten, que no sea un pecado ser mujer, no, que ser mujer sea un privilegio en mi país y en esta ciudad. Eso es lo que estamos pidiendo. Ni una muerta más, por favor.
Kadın dayanışmasından, kadınların gücünden korkuyorlar. O yüzden bugün İstiklal Caddesi kadınlara kapatıldı. Bu ne demek oluyor? Daha çok kadınlar öldürülsün demek, kadınların sesi daha çok susturulsun demek. Ancak gördüğünüz gibi kadınlar her şeye, bütün yasaklara rağmen İstiklal'in sokaklarını mora boyadılar bugün.
A manifestação hoje é um reflexo dessa união de todas as mulheres hoje no mundo, né? Querendo não só os mesmos direitos, mas respeito.
It's a Monday afternoon, just landed from Dallas to Dubai, and it's so silent. Unbelievable. No traffic. The passengers in the flight was thin, and now the airport seems to be deafening silence. Interesting. All due to coronavirus. Man, a lot has changed in 1 week.
Paris in the past years ago, and you literally couldn't move.
you know, because it's so packed. It's actually been more enjoyable because it's a lot quieter.
It's been 10 years since we passed the Affordable Care Act. With your help, it's the closest we've ever come to universal coverage in America. There are people alive today because of what you did. There are 135 million Americans whose pre-existing conditions are now protected because of what you did. Young people who've been able to stay on their parents' plans, seniors who've had an easier time affording their medicine, women who can't be charged more just because they're women, and a lot more. That's something worth celebrating, but it's also progress worth protecting. You helped protect it with your vote in 2018. But even with a House of Representatives committed to building on the Affordable Care Act, Republicans will keep trying, both in Congress and in the courts, to rip away the care that millions of Americans rely on and to raise costs for millions more.
The issue of pre-existing conditions,
Right.
you say you're going to protect them,
Right.
but your administration is also fighting Obamacare in the courts. So how do you promise people that you're going to protect them based on that?
That's what I said. We want to terminate Obamacare because it's bad.
So even as we celebrate, we commit ourselves to protecting the progress we've made until we finish the job for good, with quality, affordable coverage for every single American. Thank you to Protect Our Care for leading that fight, and to everyone who joins them.
As moms, we've noticed that in children's books, there's a lack of diversity when it comes to body types in particular for this book. And we really wanted it to be known that girls can do anything regardless of what they look like. We felt like this was a book that could speak to young girls on what their bodies can do and kind of take the focus onto more of like an action perspective rather than just girls being considered pretty or ornamental in some way. What does a little girl who has a non-standard body size have to deal with? So like, she would like to be able to shop. She would like to be able to do whatever physical activity she wants. She would like to make friends no matter what. We have spreads from a little girl running a race. Which
Things
is,
that we've been through.
Yeah, things that we
growing up.
feel like we've been through. And then also things that, you know, we feel like are important. And playing with friends, shopping, swimming, like all these things that every little girl just wants to be able to do no matter what she looks like.
I am a new mom. Colton, August, is 8 months old. And it's just really important to teach him about being inclusive and accepting and non-judgmental. And those are the types of messages, like even having a son and having him reading this book that you think is geared towards little girls, it's kind of geared for everyone in that sense that we want everyone to be accepting and to cut down on bullying. My main goal, and I guess our main goal, and it's a big one, and I hope it's attainable, is to cut down on bullying, and by showing different characters, if you will, and different people in the world, because the world is wide, that people can learn to be more accepting in their homes and in school. I really hope that it can have an impact on the situation with bullying.
We can put this book in as many hands as possible, and I think that it will make a difference one day, even if we see the results 20 years later. the stories that are coming in,
they give me chills.
Yeah, it's just,
we got a lot of messages yesterday from people that have just received the book, because it's just now shipping out, from moms, and when their little girls are reading it, they've already done book reports on it. They have been doing a lot of the yoga poses in the book, and so seeing them have the book on the ground or in front of them, and then them doing the activities and the yoga poses in the book, it is just like, it'll make you cry. And she's like, this girl's beautiful, my body can do this too, and that's exactly what we wanted to do.
This election is a very important election. In my view, civilization as we know it is at stake. It's about everything. It's about America. We ask God to bless America. What is America? America is our Constitution. America is our Constitution with the genius of a separation of powers, Bill of Rights, a republic if you can keep it, Benjamin Franklin. All of the Bill of Rights and all that contains, and that is under siege. It is, I think there's a disloyalty to the Constitution. What is America? America is we the people. It is the beautiful diversity of America. Unless you were blessed to be born a Native American, which is a blessing to you and those of us who love you and to America, we are a nation of immigrants who are being denigrated. And every newcomer to America with hopes, dreams, aspirations for a better life for their children in the future, those are American traits, and those newcomers have made America more American and continue to do so. What is America? This beautiful land from sea to shining sea and beyond, which is being degraded almost every day in D.C. and, again, in denial about climate and the rest of that. So disloyal to the Constitution, denigrating newcomers, degrading the environment. It was America, our values, which are being undervalued, devalued by the current.
Good books, good times.
Any war that you have seen on TV in the last 20 years, we have had a kid from that region. It's hard hearing that a kid saw their neighbor's house bombed, but it also speaks to the resilience of the human spirit, especially that in kids.
The first year I came here, I learned how to read and write. I was just ready, to get bullied. It was so different, everything was not so hard on me. When I don't understand anything, I go to a teacher. They help me out. Persevere. In the face of challenge, I keep trying. I work harder, smarter, and more creative. It just gave me a chance to learn. I take pride in being a foodie.
In no other part of the world could a school like this exist.
All human life is precious.
preferred a bill that has exemptions for rape and incest?
All human life is precious.
I really think of vaginal health as a precursor to the pursuit of pleasure. If I was 23 years old and my boyfriend was like, "Why are you doing this?" Or like, why are you like icing your vagina after we have sex? Or why are you like running off to pee? I would have probably felt defensive or felt like I was being judged. Our products are not for women. Our products are for people with vaginas. And that's something that's so important to me because some of our most vocal advocates from the very beginning have been people who don't identify as women but do have a vagina. Trans men who are on testosterone, which will also have a big impact on your vagina. You might, if you're taking tea, you might experience more vaginal dryness, or you might be at an increased risk for vaginal infection. I can't speak to that experience, but I know that I would feel pretty shitty if every time I went to use this product that was supposed to make me heal and it said like for ladies' pleasure or for her pleasure or for her wellness. That first UTI actually started what then became an 8-year cycle of UTI yeast infection. That UTI traveled up into my kidneys, became a kidney infection, put me in the hospital. I had to do 2 rounds of antibiotics. And when you take antibiotics, they will take care of the infection that's going on in your urinary tract, but they'll also wipe your body of all of the good bacteria that fights off for, let's say, candidal vaginal yeast infections. So when you take antibiotics, you are then exponentially more likely to get a yeast infection after that. Cannabis is absorbed vaginally, specifically when THC is absorbed vaginally. It acts as a vasodilator, so it's going to increase blood flow to that area of your body, in essence acting very similarly to the way Viagra works for people's penises. As someone who has had these health issues, who is now creating a company and building a life around changing that for other people, it's my responsibility to talk about these things without shame. It's my responsibility to like address my discharge, and feel okay with it, because I think only through seeing other people do it that more and more women will get comfortable with it.
Well, there's a lot of talk about the fact that she was married to her brother. I know nothing about it. I hear she was married to her brother. You're asking me a question about it. I don't know, but I'm sure that somebody would be looking at that.
What happens when you actually check into orientation? You get a swag bag. Look at that. Isn't that so cute?
It just keeps on going. But the women are here.
So I jokingly call it a swag bag, but what we actually need as elected officials is very high security data devices. So that's what's inside this bag, a new tablet and a new phone. And not every official gets the same exact devices. You can actually choose from an extremely limited list. So these are mine and the ones that I have selected. So you also get a freshman yearbook. It really is like orientation. And I get a folder with my ID, like a college ID.
Well, there's a lot of women who just got elected, and we are ready to get to work for the American public.
I got to sit on the House floor for the first time, and it was a pretty humbling experience, I gotta say. So much history there, and it's a lot of responsibility. You really realize how much work we've got to do.
This is the Cannon Legislative Building, and once you are elected, each member gets one office. So we'll get one of these.
Hello, everyone. I'm here with Joe Neguse. Is that what I said?
Yes, that's right.
Joe Neguse of Colorado. Say hey.
Hey, everybody.
We're out here in the tunnels trying to figure out how to get to places.
We thought it would be important to show the American people, to assure the American people that we are willing and able to work together to get a job done for them. So we thank our Republicans, those who will be supporting the bill. We appreciate the President joining us with his tweet.
Please forgive us. As I speak, I'm going to ask the white Americans in the room to please repeat after me. On behalf of myself and on behalf of my country, to you and all African Americans, from the beginning of our nation's history, in honor of your ancestors and on behalf of your children, please hear this from my heart. I apologize. Please forgive us. With this prayer, I acknowledge the depth of the evils that have been perpetrated against Black people in America. From slavery to lynchings, to white supremacist laws, to the denial of voting rights, to all the ways, both large and small, all of them evil, all of them wrong, for all the oppression and all of the injustices. I apologize. Please forgive us for the denial of any civil rights, for inequalities in criminal justice, to any instances of police brutality, to the denial of opportunity, for economic injustice, for any ways that a racial element has played into the perpetration of injustice. I apologize. Please forgive us. Emancipation Proclamation, the 13th Amendment, which abolishes slavery. A presidential pen could end, and a constitutional amendment could end the evil institution. But racism didn't end. You can't, no presidential pen or constitutional amendment could eradicate racism. It could eradicate the institution, which was a manifestation of that. There are certain things the government's not going to do, so where does it begin? It begins with us, and that begins with atonement.
Jesse was attacked
because he is a Black gay man.
Neither of those truths can be erased.
Nor can we ignore what it means when those two truths collide.
To live at the intersection of racism and homophobia
means Black survivors of anti-LGBTQ hate violence
are 1.3 times more likely to experience police violence
than their non-Black counterparts.
They are twice as likely to experience any physical violence,
twice as likely to experience discrimination,
and 1.4 times more likely to experience threats
and intimidation during acts of violence.
Your experiences cannot be erased.
Our truths cannot be erased.
Our lives must not be erased.
We will not be erased.
We will not be erased.
We will not be erased.
The violent attack against our
friend Jesse Smollett
is a frightening reminder that bigotry and homophobia is
alive and well in America.
Since the rise of the Trump administration in this Make America Great Again movement,
our Black LGBTQ family has been under attack by racists and homophobes.
And racist homophobes.
Between 2016 and 2017 alone,
there was a 17% increase in hate crimes across the country.
The FBI reported
during that same period that anti-Black hate crimes went up 16%.
We can no longer pretend.
There's a difference between
Trump's MAGA America and the America in which we live.
It's in the White House. It's in our schools.
It's in our communities. It's in the courts.
It's time to put those who commit acts of violence against our communities
and enablers of that violence on notice.
If you come for one of us, you come for all of us. Keep your hatred out of our communities.
every time the media walks back on the truth.
We must walk it forward and fight like hell to make it heard.
We can make the world we want to see together. The measure of our love for each other is greater than the measure of racist hate.
To all the kids out there, especially black kids, whether you're gay or lesbian, bi or non-binary, trans, or everything.
We see you, we love you, and we will fight for you. We got your back.
We love you. We will fight with you. We're here.
We are calling on the media and our elected representatives to condemn the hideousness of racism, of homophobia, and the monstrosity of MAGA.
Commit to standing up for safety and justice no matter how someone may identify or how they may love.
Jussie's experience is sadly not unique in today's America. At GLAAD, we send our love to our friend Jussie, who is a champion of LGBTQ acceptance and racial justice.
We may not know their name, but there are many more people who live under the threat of violence simply for being and embracing who they are. We will not stop fighting for justice.
I wonder if my vulva could hold something in place. Like I know my boobs can hold a pencil.
Our mission is to make the world a happier place, one vagina at a time.
I think over some wine, I was like, it would just be amazing if there was just like a small little vibrator that just like floated on top of my clitoris. And kind of from there, that was really the idea where Eva came from.
When Alex and I met, she already had the product concept for Eva. What I wanted to focus on first was getting the wings correct. So I focused on trying to figure out what the exact optimal geometry for the wings would be so that it could fit in as many women's labia as possible. We iterated, we made looks like prototypes and works like prototypes and worked out the form.
Women are 4 times more likely to say that sex has been not at all pleasurable in the past year. Some research shows that men have twice as many orgasms as women. We talk often about things like the confidence gap and the wage gap, but the truth is there's also a pleasure gap between the sexes. The feedback I got from the world was that either my sexuality or women's sexuality was secondary. It's like a ninja inside of your vulva, kind of like the way they climb it between the buildings, but instead of buildings, it's your vagina. So right now we have 2 products. They're both designed to enhance clitoral stimulation for partner play. One is called Eva and the other one is Finn. Eva is a hands-free clitoral vibrator that a woman can wear, or anybody with a vulva can wear during sex. It's got these bendable wings that tuck underneath the labia majora and it pushes the lips out a little bit. Our second product, Finn, is a finger vibrator. It has all these versatile ways that you can wear it, but essentially it's designed to enhance touch, which was one of the most intimate ways we experience each other. We wanted to do something that felt really natural, but also gave you an extra an extra boost in the bedroom. It's a really complicated issue about what it means to be receiving sexual pleasure. It's much more than just having an orgasm or not, but clearly women are not experiencing as much sexual pleasure as their male partners. And we wanted to create products that gave them more sexual pleasure without disrupting the experience.
I do think that what we do does kind of change lives. We get people who email us or send us feedback that this has really impacted their sex lives and their relationships. And at the same time, I also feel like when it comes to kind of tech bro culture around engineering and things like that, the best way to deal with that is just to be a competent female engineer.
I think that one of the ways that we're changing the pleasure gap is simply by owning and having vulvas and having the anatomy that these products are supposed to pleasure. There's a sleaziness in the sex toy industry. There's like this sex is low, right? And then there's this opposite problem where people put sex on this crazy pedestal. So we need to figure out a way for sex to just be sex. Sex is the most universal human experience. No matter where you go, no matter what culture, it feels good to teach people and empower people.
ICE has to be abolished. And I say that as somebody who's running for one of the top law enforcement jobs in the country. I have so much to say about ICE. Let me think about it quickly. I think it's critical that law enforcement speak out and say, this is a tool of cruelty, unconstitutional behavior, illegality. There's so much wrong with ICE that goes to its very structure. The idea that people are illegal, the idea that we should see immigrants as a national security threat, and that ICE should be placed under the Department of Homeland Security, by the way, the area where the president has the greatest authority to do the most damage, just does not make any sense. ICE was born in xenophobia in the time after 9/11, and it has grown up to become a tool of fear and illegality. And as Attorney General, I will continue to speak out against ICE. I will prosecute ICE for their criminal acts. We have stories of consistent abuse within ICE. The idea that we could call this law enforcement is a real offense to the idea of law itself. And as AG and as a candidate for AG, I feel like it's really important to speak out to abolish ICE.
rapists in the NFL. There are people who have murdered in the NFL. There are people who have abused animals who got contracts in the NFL. And then you have Colin Kaepernick, who's done none of that. All he did was kneel during the national anthem.
As members of law enforcement, we can confirm that the issues that he is saying exist in policing and throughout the criminal justice system indeed exist. What Colin Kaepernick did is try to bring awareness to an issue that this nation unfortunately has ignored for far too long, and that's the issue of racism in America.
The most hate mail I've ever gotten was when I sat for the Pledge of Allegiance in the City Council table. I sat quietly, did not disrupt anything, did not disrupt the proceedings. I say that because people have a tendency to pretend that this is somehow about patriotism. This is about, and what Kaepernick is doing, is simply about pushing back on a structure of oppression and supremacy. That's all it's about, and I want folks to understand the connection between the venom that's being tossed Kaepernick's way and the Nazis and white supremacists that we saw in Charlottesville. They are deeply connected.
It is important to make clear at the outset that there is extremely broad agreement among the world's scientists on the basic facts of human-caused climate change. The U.S. National Academy of Sciences, all of the scientific societies of all the industrial nations, more than 30 scientific societies around the U.S., at least 97% of scientists publishing in the field. All of these have concluded, based on the evidence, that climate change is real, is human-caused, and is having adverse impacts on us, our economy, and our planet. Yet we find ourselves at this hearing today with three individuals who represent that tiny minority that reject this consensus or downplay its significance, and only one, myself, who is in the mainstream. That's 25%. That's a far cry from 97%. An inauspicious start for an honest discussion about science.
要整个娃娃去给他洗澡啊什么的，不会，这样对于养娃娃不好。儿子也每天上学，就我一个人在家，就买一个最小的。我愿意他拿来当成用。我可不想让他为了解决问题随随便便找一个女人进家。